excellent group of volunteers. Thank you for this opportunity to present. We've been coming before this group every year since 2017 to provide an update on how the Sustainability Commission's activities are going. We appreciate this opportunity to provide this update and engage with the council to hear your thoughts on our work. We're here to talk a little bit about what we've done and then our plans for the future. So in this past year, we continued our successful programs. Battery recycling, we have 1.7 tons to date. Holiday light recycling, 400 pounds, and tabling presence at multiple mission events. We also provided a sustainability perspective and a community for all ages perspective in various discussions and policies, especially in the comprehensive plans. We also participated in direct service to the city with Adopt a Street participation on different city committees, and the comprehensive plan, of course. Mention it again because great to have multiple representatives from Sustainability Commission on that steering committee. We also heard guest presentations as they came and presented to the Sustainability Commission. Some of note include the Johnson County Sustainability, Ripple Glass, Johnson County Green Business, and the Mission Sales Tax to get an update. There has been quite a bit of focus on internally and how do we organize. We did an orientation session for new members. We also had a strategic plan retreat session to set out new goals and developed an annual budget. There's also a new subcommittee to report. We have a communications subcommittee of the Sustainability Commission now. So here are some of the projects we have been working on, even through a global pandemic. Communities for All Ages designation, we are still gold, which is amazing that we've achieved gold, and we're seeking to maintain that status through a maintenance phase with Communities for All Ages. The subcommittee, CFAA, is working through a checklist of items to maintain that status. We've also written updates and various topics for the Mission magazine. So there's been a variety of sustainability topics and Community for All Ages topics included in there. Also a success of the scorecard, the sustainability scorecard, we finally awarded a first plaque to the Locale project in May. And we've also worked closely with the Mission Bowl project to go through that sustainability scorecard process as well. We're proud that our success has attracted interest from a broad swath of our community and beyond. So our 11 members cover a wide range of experience and talent. Our group brings together real-world experience from Mark, Ripple Glass, community volunteering, public relations, local business community, local high schools, and even more. I'd like to take this moment to specifically mention David Greenlee's service. He was a member from 2015 until the end of 2021, and we thank him for his longevity on the Sustainability Commission. We've added a couple new voices to our commission lately, and we appreciate that they value what we're doing and they want to contribute. It is a very good sign to have new participants. We think the future is bright. Here's what's coming up for us. We did a strategic plan. We did a retreat and came up with 5 priorities. This 2-page document should be included in your packet. The strategic plan with 5 priorities. The most important thing that came out of our strategic plan is to partner with City Council and other boards and commissions to center sustainability and achieve the goals of Climate Action KC, the Regional Climate Action Plan. That was consensus from the whole Sustainability Commission on what the most important of the 5 items there. We also have make Mission a resilient and welcoming community where people want to visit, work, live, and age in place. The 3rd item is make Mission a responsible steward of our natural resources and be a good neighbor in our corner of the planet. The 4th one is educate residents about sustainability goals and practices and empower individual action. And the 5th goal that we came out of our strategic planning with was partner with local businesses to achieve sustainability goals. We will work as hard as we can on this strategic plan and glad to have a roadmap going forward. Other items to look forward to this year. We are planning a Northeast Johnson County Environmental Fair. The date is set for September 17th. Look for more information coming soon of the cities participating and further details. We also plan this year to do more robust communication efforts around sustainability and community for all ages. We plan to do some action on the climate action plan. There's also going to be a video posted online of recycling do's and don'ts. The video is in the final editing processes and maybe posted soon. Also work with the development scorecard and the green business partnerships is what we look forward to this year. And the Johnson Drive Road Riot, having an event around the opening of that is another item to look forward to. So we just want to thank you again to especially the council liaisons, Mayor Flora and Councilmember Kring for past service, and Councilmember Parker Thomas. Thank you for your council liaison, and especially to staff liaison for all of the great liaising that happens. Sustainability is growing. It's only growing in importance and prominence as climate change continues. We feel this is essential for the city to consider and appreciate the opportunities to contribute. So we do have 2 questions for you as a group. We don't necessarily need answers tonight, but we wanted to pose a couple questions to you. How do we best serve in this advisory role and fulfill how to do this advisory is the subject of this, these 2 questions. The first question is, how do you want to receive our advice? And the second question is, are there topics that you want us to focus on? We have an incredible group of people that are, through volunteering and enthusiasm and expertise and advocacy, whichever one of those words you want to put around it, how do you want us to focus, or are there any topics that you would like this group to focus our advice? Of course, we're happy to answer any questions and look forward to continuing with this excellent group of Sustainability Commission members. Thank you for your time.
Any questions for Josh? Ken first, then Hillary.
Hey, Josh. Thank you very much for your report. I just was wondering, did you listen to the prior discussion about LEED versus the National Green Building Standard?
I walked in partway through that discussion. I didn't hear the full thing.
Are you familiar at all with the National Green Building Standard?
A little bit.
Okay. Well, I guess one question I would have, would that be something that the Sustainability Commission would be interested in looking at comparisons of these 2 elements, the LEED and the National Green Building Standard, in terms of what should we as a council require of our developers in what are the trade-offs between one or the other?
I think that's a great idea. I can take that back to the Sustainability Commission and see what the group thinks on that.
Thank you.
I just wanted to share that we are just indebted to you and Terry and John and all the leadership that you guys provide for the city. The group is really a model, not just for mission, but regionally. And I can say from helping with climate action KC stuff, as we look at building out recognition programs for the entire organization, they're looking at Mission Sustainability Commission as potential, for a model that other cities could do, because we're very unique in that way. And I just want to congratulate you all and all the important work that you do. And I would say, share your advice anytime. That would be my feedback. But I would also encourage us to get those commission minutes added as to packets in whatever fashion we want to do that. And I would also still like to see the sustainability lens be something that's included by our Community for All Ages piece, which I know has been an ongoing conversation, and perhaps Mayor Flora and Laura already have a plan for us to discuss that at our upcoming retreat. But that's all I have. Thanks, Josh.
Thank you so much for those kind words, and credit goes to the whole commission. It's really a wonderful group of people from all sorts of backgrounds, which makes it even more special to have a group of neighborhood volunteers that's dedicated. Thank you for those kind words.
All right, thank you, Josh. Oh, sorry, Leah, you had a question.
I had a couple of questions. First of all, one of the activities that was on the last slide, the Johnson Drive diet, what's that?
The previous council approved a Johnson Drive road diet. And so once that project is finished, Sustainability Commission, there are some very good sustainability and community for all ages benefits. So look forward to celebrating the project when it's complete. Can I defer to staff, please?
As a part of the construction season for street improvements, the Johnson Drive stretch will be the restriping from 4 lanes to 3 or 1 in each direction with a turn lane. The public input around that proposal was so positive in terms of, you know, people first planning and cycling and walking and all of the activities that happen in our downtown core. It's been a core focus of the Sustainability Commission always, and they didn't want that to go unnoticed. So they're thinking about how can we celebrate and really mark the occasion. It's not just a road project, it's actually a great achievement for the city. And that was echoed kind of throughout all of our meetings and our focus groups and all of the things that took place for that project to go forward. So this group is excited to see that take place and thought we can build around that and really make it kind of a celebration for the community.
One more question as well. So one of the ways that you can advise us is maybe giving us options for what we should look for in green building when developers come and present to us. I mean, I know that Ken talked about, you know, water, but maybe you guys could give us a menu of things that are possible in sustainability when it comes to, you know, building various projects in the city, so we know what to ask for.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have a sustainability scorecard process that was mentioned briefly, but I'm happy to walk through. I am the leader of the scorecard subcommittee of the Sustainability Commission. So I'm happy to walk through any of the items with you and also add that staff can input on the scorecard process as well.
Yep, in the past, and we can go into that in greater detail, the development projects that have participated in the scorecard process, they first come to the Sustainability Commission and have this conversation with that tool that they developed, which is, we've seen it in both ways. Sometimes the developers have thought of most of what we've discussed. Sometimes they have not considered those things, and the Sustainability Commission really does provide ideas and kind of suggestions for what to consider. And I think we've done a scorecard process with the Eldorado Group and Gateway in past iterations, but we could certainly, you know, engage with them again and talk about whatever was appropriate to take that on. It's always been a voluntary process, but I've seen it be very fruitful in terms of just, you know, idea sharing. And then that is a pitch that can be then presented to council in conversations down the line.
I just want to say we have had almost the luxury to me for this community to have such a wide variety of not only interest, but expertise on this commission. This is not just somebody who comes off the block. We have architects, we have engineers, we have Andy, who's the public spokesperson for KU. We have some really viable talent on this commission, which lends itself to us looking to you for expertise on next steps in whether it be development or recycling, or how we deal with the commercial corridor and recycling efforts and trash on weekends. There's a whole variety, a menu of things that we've been looking at, but you know, it is beyond a volunteer. They don't get paid, but there's no price to put on what they have brought to the system and the program as a whole. And I can't tell you how much we appreciate what you've done and what you continue to bring. It really helps.
Great. Yes. Thank you so much for those kind words. And we appreciate your liaison attending our meetings and bringing things back and forth with the council. So thank you too.
All right. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Emily. We'll now move into our action items. The first action item is the acceptance of the meeting minutes from Audrey McClanahan.
Thank you. These are the January 12th community development minutes for your review, please.
Recommend that we accept.
Any objections to that? Okay. All right, next we have the Community Center Skylight and Ceiling Repairs item from Penn Almany.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's good to be with you again today. So we're discussing skylights at the POWELL Community Center, which were originally installed in 1999. And despite all of the years and weathering, they've held up pretty well. It's probably because at the time that was the standard in skylight installation, was this cowl wall product. This product has only gotten better over the years. And so we proposed replacing the originals with the newest and greatest version of cowl wall. But one of the reasons they are so good is because they've got a balanced, it's kind of a grid that diffuses the light and reduces any glare that could potentially come through the skylight onto the water. And as you know, from a lifeguard perspective, if you've been in the pool, the glare can get pretty bad. And it's obviously, it hinders any of our guards from scanning the water well. So we wanted to keep that same panel in place since it's done so well. Oxidation, UV, heat, and moisture all lead to its deterioration over time. And especially the last 2 years, the seals on the perimeter of the skylights have deteriorated so that there's more and more leaking, and that oxidation drips down onto the pool deck and stains on the pool deck as well. So this project was originally scheduled in 2020. Due to COVID, we pushed the timeline back since our revenues weren't where we anticipated them being. And because the FCIP projects are underway and essentially shutting down that space, this just aligns well with replacing a needed fixture. So our goal is to align the replacement and installation of these skylights with the FCIP installation. We reached out to 5 businesses, only 2 responded, and we're proposing SCH Concepts as the most responsive because they were the only ones that included cowl wall as a product. The other company proposed Lexan, which doesn't have the same ability to diffuse glare. So we had originally budgeted $70,000 for this project as part of the CIP program. This bid comes significantly under that because we removed 24 skylights from the gymnasiums. And that's because when we reviewed each of the skylights with each of the vendors, it was determined with staff and their input that we could generate probably another 4 or 5 years of useful life from the gymnasium skylights. So we felt it prudent to glean as much useful life from them as possible and turn over scarce resources to other projects. So that's why this bid comes in at $22,774, significantly less than the $70,000. And you'll see in another action item that we're proposing to use at least a portion of that towards funding for an additional project. So staff is recommending that we contract with SCH Concepts to install 10 skylights in the natatorium ceiling for an amount not to exceed $22,774, which would be funded by Parks and Recreation sales tax. Happy to take any questions.
Yeah, Ken.
Hi, Penn.
Hello.
With the skylights in the gym, they're not contributing to the leaks that we used to have in that area. Are they that was roof related?
Correct. Yeah, so Ken's referencing some leaking that had occurred on the gymnasium hardwood, and those were puncture marks through the actual ceiling membrane. They didn't originate from the perimeter of the skylights.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'd be willing to take this to council and put it on the consent, but I think it's important to highlight where we're saving money and using it in multiple projects. So I would, if it goes consent, that's fine with me, but I would like someone to bring up how we're saving and what we're doing on that level too.
Okay. Should we just say non-consent then to be able to highlight? Yeah, so let's just say non-consent then for that purpose. Penn, you're up next again with the Natatorium Painting and slide stairs as well.
Thank you. So the natatorium obviously is exposed to UV, chemicals, water, humidity, all of those elements consistently year in and year out. So to prevent some quick deterioration during the instruction or the installation of steel, they put on an epoxy waterproofer. The most common version of that is Tenemic. It essentially creates a thick membrane so that all of these elements don't deteriorate the steel underneath. So over time, that wears out. The useful life of any of those coatings on a ceiling is anywhere from 15 to 20 years. We've gotten pretty good use of that because we've done a good job of balancing that heat and humidity. So there really hasn't been too much opportunity for oxidation to begin. Now you compound that with leaking skylights, and we're starting to create the issue that we're seeing today. So more oxidation has happened over the last 2 years because of the skylight issues. When you look at any of the walls, we typically paint those every 3 to 5 years. So they're not seeing the same level of deterioration over time. It was originally proposed in the budget that we put on a new coating on just the ceiling and a new coating on the slide stairs. And after we brought in vendors, it was noticed that there's significantly more oxidation than we had anticipated, especially up on the ceiling. So they're going to need to blast off the original coating, then put on a new coating, wait for that to cure, paint, and then clean up. So the FCIP project, once again, posed the perfect opportunity to combine all of these mechanical upgrades, heating, ventilation, dehumidifying systems getting replaced, the polar ionization, as well as the destratification fans will all do really well with our new product and kind of keeping that balance of moisture away from our ceiling. And unfortunately, as you'll notice in the action item, we last put a coating on the slide stairs in 2013, but it doesn't have the same useful life just because there's standing water, repeated use over time. And so we're here inside of that 10 years to get a new coating on the slide stairs. We reached out to 7 vendors. 2 responded. We're recommending the most responsive and lowest bid from Blastic Clean for $84,849.10. They anticipate setup taking 2 to 3 days, and then install of the product, blasting, curing, and all of that to be roughly 10 days. We've got a contractor meeting set up to discuss timelines and fitting projects seamlessly together so that we don't impede on patrons longer than we need to. So we anticipate this project being completed prior to the conclusion of the facility closure on April 10th. So staff is recommending contracting with Blastic Clean to prepare, condition, paint the ceiling as well as the slide stairs for an amount not to exceed $84,849.10, and then it'll be payable from the Parks and Recreation sales tax. Happy to take any questions.
Any questions for Penn? Yeah. Good.
Can you give some insight into the large difference in the bids and what's that about?
The large difference in
the 2 bids received, the amount?
Yeah, so one big difference is that Blastic Clean does this in warehouses across the region. And so they have the ability to mobilize up to 50 people at any given time, just depending on how big the square footage is. So they've got a much larger opportunity to spread out that between multiple people, multiple shifts. Whereas you're looking at this other company is proposing a longer timeline because their worker core is less. So it's over span of days. I believe that they would be renting the scaffolding equipment, some of those features, whereas Blastic Clean has it all in-house and has significant cost savings there.
Great, thanks.
You're welcome.
Jen.
recommend that we take it to council. I'd say consent.
And then Penn, you want to take us home with the increase in lifeguard pay from Laura and Penn?
You bet, you bet. So thank you. I've never had 3 action items in a row. You guys have been very kind to me. So as you know, we discussed at length the COVID impacts on our lifeguards at the outdoor pool, and specifically last year. And it was really difficult finding the staff and interest to train up some of these guards. Well, we noticed we pulled finding efforts out of literally every finding app, website, location, referrals, you name it. We tried it, and we got to a pretty healthy level of lifeguarding. We trained them all up. They did really well. We didn't have any drownings, and which is always wonderful to kind of talk to anecdotally, but it's serious, and it's important to highlight that our team was trained to the best of our abilities, and they did an excellent job throughout the entire course of the season, knowing that there's young children, they're like high school kids in most cases, who are under a lot of stress and get constant feedback from adults. They endured it, and they stuck with us, and they did an excellent job. So I want to make sure that we're underscoring how important this position is to the success of our outdoor pools and recreation and the community in general. With that said, at the end of the summer, people go back to school, or college age, adult age. They've got commitments that that alleviate during the summer. Fall comes around, they have to jump back into the workforce. So our high schoolers once again take a brunt of that on the evenings and the weekends. And we had over 10 of them leave for a neighboring facility because they got paid more. And obviously, we're not coming before you to ask that we pay Amazon type hourly wages, because I don't know that that's realistic. But when it comes to comparables within our region, that's ultimately where this stemmed from. So we did a wage study internally, discussing with each of the cohort among the region, and then Kansas Recreation and Parks Association did another regional study and gave us more feedback from cities that we didn't reach out to. So that's included in the action item. It's worth referencing that our direct competitors, both on the left and right of us, Merriam starts theirs at $13 an hour, and Johnson County starts theirs at $12 an hour. We have currently started at $10 an hour and then started to cycle up to $10.50 at the end of the summer, just so that people would give us a second look. So as you know, that poses a wage disadvantage. We did really well in generating buy-in and showing that it's not always about money, but it's about culture and about team. And so kudos to our management staff for that. Jenna and Jalissa are great with our guards. At the end of the day, though, it's painful to see them walk away. So there's continued upward pressure. We don't want to be the highest wage, because I don't think that's prudent financially. And I think we can make an impact in our staffing levels if we bring it up to $12.50 for the guards and up to $13.50 for our captains. So staff is recommending increasing lifeguard wage to $12.50 an hour for the lifeguards, and captain pay to $13.50, which is a $2.50 increase for lifeguards and a $1.50 increase for the captains. And financially speaking, we can absorb that here at the community center because we still have the north lobby closed. It's typically staffed by at least one individual. We've also done a great job internally of navigating the surges and reductions in rentals and aligning our staffing model with kind of that peak and valley. We'll continue to do that even as our rentals have upticked. So if and when we open the north lobby again, we still feel like we can absorb the impacts of that Indoor pool would be roughly $10,000, $10,172.50 increase. The MFAC budget impacts would be $13,516.50. And we believe we can absorb that impact as well, because typically there's lower staffing. But I think a big opportunity for us is when we reach out to the Mission Marlins, try to find an opportunity for their swimmers to do like a 1 hour of guarding after their practice. And that is where a lion's share of our staffing hours go to, is during that 4-hour practice every morning. So if we can reduce that even a little bit, we'll be fine in terms of covering this budget difference. So with that said, staff feels very confident that we can cover the budget impacts. It's obviously going to make huge improvements to morale of our aquatic manager and coordinator, and we'll give our lifeguards an opportunity to stick around and feel like we are willing to invest in them. I'm happy to take any questions.
Do we have any idea over the last year or two how many people that serve as our lifeguards come from Mission?
Come from Mission? I don't know. I know that I've spoken to parents who really hang their hat on bringing the Mission vibe. You know, I was a lifeguard, my child's in swimming, they're a lifeguard. I know that we're at least at 5, but I can't speak to how many more than that. Out of roughly 50-ish guards. So I'm sure it's more than that, but that's just how many I know of.
Okay. Alyssa's been around since my kids swam,
Yeah.
and it's that connection within the community is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I fully support them getting an increase.
I appreciate that. Yeah, there's no doubt that we generate a lot of goodwill, even though there is, increasing wage pressures for them to leave. Some have stuck around just because this is a great community and there's a great lineage of guarding here in Mission.
Maybe we should put this one on non-consent just to call more attention to it, if you're all right with that. Sounds good. I'm supportive too. Thank you, Pim.
Thank you.
We do not have any discussion items this evening, so we will move into department updates. Laura, are there any updates for the Community Development Committee?
I do have just a couple. Thank you. I think I sent out some information last Friday, I think, on the facility closures that will be impacting primarily the indoor pool, or at least the indoor pool for the longest period of time here. Again, challenging. We're doing our best to kind of work through those issues with members and patrons. That change, that disruption in schedule and life is never easy. We knew with the big projects that we were tackling with FCIP, some of that was going to be inherent in the work that we do, not made any easier by the fact of where big mechanical systems were located when this building was originally constructed. So we will continue to do our best, work on an individual basis. If we have members who would like a refund or a prorated reduction in a class or fee that's impacted by the closure, we're certainly willing to discuss that. And then give me a minute, because kudos to our public works staff for great snow removal. Even though the hype was not, I was glad to see we didn't have the, trying to find the best tweet of the day and share that with you. Best tweet of the day so far. So, we like to make sure that we leave the door open for continued praise. But on Twitter, Queen of the Bees said, thank you at City of Mission, Kansas for snow plowing Fox Ridge Drive like our lives depend on it. I thought at Roland Park, Kansas was supreme at road care, but hot blank, your crews are killing it. Hashtag thank you. So we shared that with Celia and her staff today. So they continue to do a phenomenal job, and we certainly appreciate that. And I think that's all I have this evening for Community Development Committee.
Sounds good. Thank you, Laura. It is 7:12 p.m. and with no further discussion, that concludes this meeting of the Community Development Committee. Again, this video will be made public on our website at missionks.org. I will now turn it over to Councilmember Kring for the Finance and Administration Committee.
Thank you, Trent. I think we're ready. Does anybody need a break? Are we okay? Okay, let's go. Okay, thanks, Kristen. It is now 7:13, and I'd like to call this meeting of the Finance and Administration Committee to order. This meeting is being held in person, but in consideration of the ongoing COVID-19 health concerns, we are offering the option for the public to participate through Zoom if preferred. Instructions on how to attend virtually are included in the City Council calendar item listed on the front page of missionks.org. The public is also invited to participate in the meeting. If you are participating through Zoom, please either add your comment in the chat feature and it will be read out loud, or note that you would like to speak and we will call on you shortly to make your comment verbally. Please remember your comments or questions are visible to everyone in the meeting. If you are part of our in-person group tonight, please raise your hand but stay seated and we will call on you to go to the lectern to make your comment. When you make your comment, please state your name and city of residence for the record. Also be conscientious of others trying to speak and speak slowly and clearly. This meeting will be recorded and posted on the city's website at missionks.org. Please contact the administration offices at 913-676-8350 with any questions or concerns. Is there any member of the public who would like to comment now? Seeing none, we will move into our first, we don't have public comments or public hearing tonight. We'll move into our first action item, and that would be acceptance of the meeting minutes from Audrey McClanahan.
Thank you. These are the January 12th, 2022 Finance and Administration Committee minutes for your consideration, please.
Is there a motion to approve?
Recommend that we accept.
Thank you, Ken. Okay, moving on to the next action item, we have the pre-development agreement from BK Properties for 5665 Fox Ridge Drive, and that would be Brian Scott.
Madam Chair. On the right agenda here. Yep. So 5665 Fox Ridge is a building located on Fox Ridge, obviously. It's a one-story building, approximately 40,000 square feet. It sits on an acre. It sits on a site that's about 5 acres in size. It's the one-story building that is directly north of the Mission Tower office building. It sits there alone on a parking lot. It's what we affectionately call the former JCPenney call center. The building was built in 1970. I think it had several kind of lives, but the longest was the JCPenney call center for the credit department for the company. And I think it's been vacant for probably over a decade now. So they've gotten lots of inquiries over the years about the property. We actually had somebody that was interested in developing an assisted living memory care facility on the site about 5 years ago in 2017. There was a group out of Omaha, I believe, called Dial Senior Living. They went so far as to make an option to purchase the property. They approached the city about doing a tax increment financing district and utilizing that tool to help with some of their costs for redevelopment of the site. They submitted a blight study, which was approved by the city council at that time. The district was created. Then they were working with staff on the development of the project and developing a TIF project plan, and then just had an opportunity elsewhere in the metropolitan area. So they withdrew their project and went to Prairie Village to be a part of the Meadowbrook project there. So that site has kind of sat vacant ever since. Mr. Ken Block of Block Real Estate Services called me about a year ago, almost to the date, inquiring about that property. We talked a little bit about the zoning and the existing TIF district. And he was going to reach out to the ownership group. They're an out-of-town ownership group. I think they're out of Detroit somewhere. So didn't hear from them for a long time. So I just kind of thought maybe that this didn't happen. But then he reached out to us again right before the holidays and said that he actually had secured an option to purchase the property. So he's interested in redeveloping that property. It's going to be a multifamily project. I don't want to steal too much of his thunder because they do have a presentation tonight. And they do want to utilize incentives. So we're starting that discussion. And really the first step of that discussion is a pre-development agreement. So this document tonight simply allows us to enter into a pre-development agreement with Block Real Estate Services, and they will fund us $10,000, and that money will be used to pay for our consulting services. So it'll be Mr. Heaven and Mr. Wimpy, who were here earlier this evening at the work session, and Bruce Kimmel with Ellers. You all know Bruce. He does the financial modeling and the analysis on their pro forma and their finances. So that core group works with the city administrator and I to formulate a recommendation to you all for what a redevelopment agreement may look like. Ultimately, it's your consideration to approve. The pre-development agreement tonight does not obligate the city in any way to approve anything they present to us. So I'm going to stop right there. Mr. Aaron Mesmer with Block Real Estate Services is here tonight to give a presentation. And I believe Mr. Block himself is actually zooming in, as well as Curtis Holland, who's their attorney representing them on this project. So I'm going to stop and let him give a presentation. He'll introduce the company and talk a little bit about the project.
Thank you. And thank you, Madam Chair and members of the council. Are we teed up for the presentation? Or? I have a thumb drive too, if we need it, just in case, but we sent it earlier, trying to be proactive. Well, in the meantime, we'll go ahead and get started. So I'm Aaron Mesmer with Block Real Estate Services. As mentioned, Ken Block is on the phone, as well as Curtis Holland, who's our attorney for the project. And we are sponsors in the group. Let me see if this works. Sure. So at Block Real Estate Services, hopefully you've seen some of our projects around town, but we have developed quite a bit. If we can go to the next slide, please. I guess I don't have control. We developed quite a bit of commercial and multifamily property throughout the Kansas City metro, and now we're actually doing projects regionally. So we do have about 44 million square feet of commercial space in our portfolio, and our management company, with the next slide, please. On the multifamily side, we're approaching about 10,000 units, and that includes properties that are in the Kansas City market, as well as places like Arkansas, St. Louis, Nebraska, Iowa, down in Texas, and so forth. So we're really excited about what we've been able to do. If we can go to the next slide, please. Some of the projects that you might have seen in and around town here include the Royale at City Place and the Apex at City Place. That's at the southwest corner of College and 69. We have built 2 out of the 4 communities that we plan to build as part of City Place, which is a master planned community that at its conclusion will include 600,000 square feet of office space, along with over 1,400 multifamily units, 140 senior units, and about 45,000 square feet of retail space. Other projects that we have include a mix of suburban and urban concepts. Those include projects that are surface parked with maybe tuck under garages, as well as projects that have structured parking in a larger garage, or what would be similar to the project proposed here would be a podium with a building on top, as well as an amenity deck. If we can go to the next one. This is saying that the computer here is almost out of battery as well. So as you're aware, the project site is up on 56th and Foster Ridge, just north of a couple of different buildings that we actually used to own. So if we go to the next slide. Block was an owner and investor of the Broadmoor Place office building, as well as the Mission Corporate Center building. Next slide, please. So what you can see here is we actually ended up owning those buildings each for around 15 years apiece. We spent lots of money renovating those and trying to keep them in a good condition. And when we felt like it was the right time, we ended up selling those properties. So very familiar with the area, have invested in the area before. And I think as was mentioned, when Ken was driving by it, he looked at it one day and said, man, that would make a really great site potentially for apartments. And so he started to work with the family that owns it out of Detroit and really started working on that. It took quite a long time in terms of sort of getting something where they were really responsive at all. But now that we have their attention, we spent some time doing our plan. So if we can go to the next. We also wanted to take into account some of the guidelines that we knew were part of this area. We've already had a preliminary meeting with staff, and we have several others on the books to continue the conversations about what that streetscape is going to look like. A priority, as they've described, is really making sure that that's a walkable environment and something that's very pedestrian friendly as you make the transition from commercial to maybe more dense residential to maybe less dense residential. And so that was just something we wanted to highlight here, which I think you'll see reflected in the plan that we've got here. We can go to the next slide, please. So this is the plan that we've come up with to date. And right now, what you can see is that off of 56th Street, we have an entrance and an exit to our garage, as well as an entrance and an exit for what would be our trash and so forth. So you've got kind of a service area where you might have moving trucks or trash trucks and that kind of thing. And then we have a podium style building where we have parking underneath. And on top of that podium, what we did was we built an amenity courtyard. This would match all of our other projects where we have first class A+ amenities, including the pool and the cabanas and the workout facilities, the bocce, and inside we've got the massage rooms and we've got a concierge and just really a first class deal. I would encourage you, if you haven't been any of our properties already, we're certainly happy to schedule a time where you can come out and take a look. But we're really proud of what we do as far as making them a first class community. Certainly inside the units, we're doing things that are first class finishes as well that you may not find in other multifamily communities. That includes things like 42-inch cabinets instead of a 36-inch cabinet, or a full height backsplash, you know, whereas other apartment developers may only build a 4-inch lip around the countertops. We do beverage centers in our kitchens. So you might think wine coolers or USB plugins. So lots of little details are baked into our apartments, but that's the difference between, you know, being an A- or an A and an A+ property. The other thing that you can see on the site plan here is we've really taken some care to address what's going on all sides of the building. So really making sure that it's a 360-degree design. You've got areas where the residents will be able to walk out of their units and come out onto the streetscape. So it's an interior facing and exterior facing project that currently has 307 units. And I will say, as we work through the design and as we continue iterations with staff, that may fluctuate a little bit, but that's a good number for us in terms of being able to staff the project appropriately and for us to be able to have those first class amenities. You need a certain amount of scale to be able to afford a resort style pool and a hot tub and all the other things. So that's where we are. If we can go to the next slide, please. This is just a closer look at that amenity area. We try to get creative about all the different things that are going on. And so what you'll see is there's bags games, and then there's one that I had to look up when the architects put it in there called Skubal, which is soccer and pool combined, where you get in the thing and you kick the ball around. So whatever the hottest thing is, you can see we've got a putting green in there. We've got a place for bocce ball. So lots of stuff going on where you've got active and passive places for the residents to enjoy themselves. Next slide, please. These are just some other images of projects that we've done. And with that, I'm certainly happy to answer any questions that you might have.
The first question I have, does this require a zoning request change?
I'm going to let staff answer zoning questions.
I didn't hear what the question was.
Zoning, it's currently commercial. What are we rezoning, or is there a request for a rezone?
This is actually in the form-based code district.
That's okay.
So the underlying zoning is industrial.
Right.
So as we go through this process, we're going to request a zoning change to probably R6, which is residential multifamily. But at the end of the day, that form-based code overlay district is really what's going to rule how that development looks and feels on the site.
Does anybody have comments or questions? Ken?
Are you looking at affordable housing as part of the mix?
It hasn't been part of our equation to date. It's really a separate business in terms of how affordable is operated. So we haven't incorporated that into our project at this point.
The reason I ask is we requested developers to include affordable housing as part of the projects that are being submitted for housing. Sure. Given the fact that housing is really in dire need in terms of affordable housing in the area.
Understood.
Okay, do you know what the height of this building is?
Not offhand. Curtis, do you know, are you on the phone? Yeah, it's a 5-story building. I just didn't know if you were asking for the actual number of feet.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, I'm not familiar with the location. How close is it to a residential single family homes?
We can go back to the site plan. The area plan actually is probably better before the office building.
Back there.
Sorry, if we can.
On the right-hand side is a parking lot that runs along Broadmoor, and then Broadmoor Park is just going to be just to the south and off the screen. Does that put you where you need to be? Okay.
Thank you.
There's a context slide as well. If we go back before, we have the office buildings that we used to own.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Back one. Back one more.
Forward one or back one. There you go. So this will give you an idea of where we sit relative to Metcalf and the office buildings, and as they transition to the park and then the single family.
Thank you.
Yep. We are trying to take advantage of the grade there too by putting the garage kind of in the side of the hill. So as you come in from the north side, you're on grade, but then on the south side where the residents are, they'll be elevated there.
In follow up to Ken's question about affordable housing, have you considered any sustainability elements as part of the project?
Yeah, we do quite a few things in our projects to make sure that we're buying environmentally efficient appliances and things like that. We do a bike repair station and a bike shop. So we have 5 or 6 bikes at every property where residents can just walk down and use those. But we also have 2 stations where if you have a bike, you can take it and it's got all the tools, and you can use the deal to pump your tires up or replace your inner tube or just get it all cleaned up and that kind of thing. So we'll have different elements like that throughout the project. But yeah, we're aware of that. And frankly, there's community benefits and many benefits to that, as well as cost savings just from an operating standpoint that we like to take advantage of.
Okay, and then just one follow-up comment more for staff, which I know is probably already top of mind. That intersection is just so incredibly dangerous. And I know that we are, KDOT owns, basically right up until it doesn't. And so my concern, and we also don't even have curbs lining this, the highway there. So I guess my question would be, and my comment would be that as we explore the incentive conversation is working on getting that, not just the streetscape in front of the apartment building, but I mean, really overhauling that whole little section. I know that the turn may not be possible, but it's hard for me to even envision, how 307 units could be managed right off that intersection there. There's just so much happening right there. So anyways, that's more of a comment just for staff. And I know it's probably already top of mind, but just a refreshed comment for me.
And we'll definitely have a traffic study that supports the design and shows the flow. The nice thing about apartments is not everybody leaves and comes at the same time like they might in an office building, I guess in a pre-COVID office building. So you do see a more regular disbursement and kind of ingress and egress of traffic throughout the day.
Any other call? Go ahead, Trent.
Has there been any discussions related to like LEED designation for construction or any sort of national efficiency certifications along those lines?
Yeah, so our experience has been that we do a lot of the things that are part of the LEED program, but if you want to certify as LEED, you have to pay them to certify as LEED, and it's just not efficient. I'd rather use the money putting in things that are friendly than paying someone else to tell me that they're friendly, I guess is the way to say that. So we do a lot of the things that are, and certainly happy to talk to staff and work with them on making sure that we have a lot of those components, but we probably won't go get a formal certification.
This would not be for you, I'm sorry, this would be for staff. And just to help out, especially people new on the council, is there any way to come up with a culmination of all the apartments we have currently in 2.5 square miles, from fourplexes to 307 apiece, just to get an idea and a snapshot, especially for newer council members, how many apartment complexes we're actually talking about?
Yeah, we have that list, probably needs to be updated, but yeah, we can do that.
I have an old one. I just,
Yeah, and I think important in context with that list is kind of the conversation that's been occurring through the development of the comprehensive plan, and that's talking about, you know, what is the desired level of density throughout the community.
Thank you.
I just had one more comment in that I drive by that building almost every day and say, wow, I wish something would be built there. So we are excited about the prospect, but also just want to share what some of our more recent expectations are from the conversation.
Sure. Yeah.
So,
and I think that we feel the same way. I know Ken, again, he was coming up and down Metcalf, looked at it and said, this is really the front door to this community. And we want to do something that really puts a wow factor in it as you come through Metcalf there. So we're excited about the site as well, and certainly appreciate your time. Feel free to reach out to us if you have any other comments or questions, and we're happy to address those as quickly as we can.
I'd recommend that we take this to council, a regular agenda.
Non-consent.
Yeah, non-consent.
And I would, Councilmember Kring, I would just thank you, Aaron, for being here. I know it's a project that we've talked with staff about on a couple of occasions, and I think you heard it echoed here tonight, but I just want to close and make sure that as we move through continued discussions on the process, that I think the themes of affordable housing and sustainability are very important. I don't know if you were here for the work session presentation, but I would encourage you not to gloss over those as we come back through the discussions.
We're happy to have an authentic conversation about those things. So thank you again for your time.
Thank you, Aaron. Okay. We have a motion to move forward. We'll go to the next action item. Dan, do you have something, or are you working on the computer?
Just working on the computer.
Okay, thank you.
This has better hardware than any other.
Okay, the next action item is, as Laura pointed out earlier, the pre-development agreement from REA Realty for Gateway Project. And that would be Laura Smith to give us an update, please.
Yes, thank you. So similar to the pre-development agreement that Brian just presented for BK Properties, and I touched on briefly during the work session, our practice has been when we work with a developer, particularly on a project with a request for incentives, that at the initial stages, we enter into a pre-development agreement. And the pre-development agreement, again, as Brian mentioned, does not obligate us to any specific terms or anything at the end of the project, but it provides that opportunity and protection for the city to be able to reimburse ourselves through the funds that the developer escrows for the costs associated with review by our land use attorney, by our financial advisors, by bond counsel as appropriate. It's not necessarily just a one-time deposit in that escrow account. That's where we start. It's you look at it, I think, more like a retainer or a drawdown. So if more funds are needed, we would certainly go back to the developer or developers and ask them to replenish that fund. It's been a system that's worked well for us, and I think, again, been a protection for our residents. The pre-development agreement with REA Realty, who is the owner of the Gateway property, it looks slightly different than the BK Properties pre-development agreement, and that's because we're certainly at a different point in the life cycle and stages with this project. So some of those terms, do not look similar. But again, this agreement, you'll notice a couple of things. The escrows the funds to be available to pay for third-party consulting costs. But it also gives the city and telegraphs very clearly that if we find ourselves in a position throughout the negotiations in that process that the developers would not have timely paid their taxes, would not have addressed code enforcement issues on the site, which I think a couple were raised in this particular case this evening, or had a foreclosure action pending, that the city in our discretion could suspend any sort of negotiations or conversations until those were remedied. So again, this is a document that provides protections for the city, does not obligate us to anything. And I know that the gateway developers asked this evening when they were here earlier for wire instructions on, where to send the funds for escrow. So they understand this is part of our process as well.
Does anybody have comments or questions for Laura on this? Go ahead, Ken.
I just want to go ahead and make a recommendation. We take this to council non-consent.
Everybody okay with that? Non-consent.
Non-consent, sorry.
Thank you, Laura. Last action item we have is the Mission Bowl request for extension for commencement of construction, and that would be Laura Smith.
Yes, thank you. Since we granted original project approvals for the Mission Bowl project being undertaken by Sunflower Development Corporation, they have continued to work diligently to finalize plans, their budgets and financing, as well as completing demolition of the former Mission Bowl building that was on that site, which was an important priority and goal for the council. One of the things that they have seen is, because I'm not the expert, but I'm going to invite Banks Floodman with Sunflower Development to come up and kind of talk and share with you all what they've experienced, kind of where they are in the project. As a result of some of those things, they have asked for an extension of the commencement of construction. In the original redevelopment agreement, that vertical construction was to have commenced as of December 1st of 2021. So obviously we're past that date, but Banks, I would invite you to come up and share some additional information with the council and then answer any questions you might have.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, council. Good to see everybody again. We don't want to be here asking for an extension, I can assure you. But over the course of the last really 10 to 12 months, we've experienced volatility that we've never seen before. And just to give you an example, and I know we have a presentation as well, just to kind of show that as we have gone through the value engineering process, which we've had to, our number one priority is always to maintain the integrity of the development that was approved, and which we have done. But I do want to explain, going to take you through the timeline of the cost, let you know where we're at, and then also show some updated renderings just so you can see that the facade, et cetera, is consistent with what was originally approved. So just to go through the quick snapshot of the timeline, March 1st of 2021, when we received our initial bid set with CDs, our pricing was just over $25.2 million in hard construction cost. From that point in time, you start to put all the FF&E in place and work through just the overall scope of the project, and then you have a rebid, which at this point in time would have been in July 12th. At that time, we saw about a $1.9 million increase. Majority of that came from steel, concrete, lumber at the time was escalating exponentially, TPO roofs, et cetera, have all seemed to go up. Labor costs have continued to rise. And then from that point in time, the value engineering process starts, because we want to try to get it back on track to where it was initially, right? Which was at the $25.2 million number. Unfortunately, the price continued to increase, and soon after that, on September 23rd, we received our next bid, and it was at $28.7 million. Our recent bid is January 12th, was at $30.8 million. So my point being is we've seen about a $5.7 million increase in hard construction cost over the course of the last year, which is not enviable, but fortunately we have great partners. Our lender is stuck with us, and our partners have all stuck with us. And so we feel very, very good about what that says about the location, the community, et cetera, that we're excited that this development will call home for residents in the future. So all the additional aspects of the project, the LEED Silver, the affordability. You know, we worked hard on that sustainability scorecard. All those things are staying in place. That was, for us, that was a deal breaker. If those were considered VE items, and that was not an option. And so what I do want to show you, if you could go to the next slide here. Again, this is the building. You can continue. One more slide. Again, I'm just want to show you that that's the initial building. One thing that we have done, we ended up adding 8 units. And why we did that is the pool you can see here was very close to the neighborhood and on the 5th floor. Well, one of the cost factors that really forced us into this position was that whole portion of the building had to be metal studs and steel. Steel pricing has been one of the items that has increased more than any other. And so what we ended up doing, and what you'll see here, is some of the amenity areas that were up top right there, we ended up turning those into units. We think that does a couple things. That creates a nice top floor unit that we think is more desirable for our residents. And then we took that pool, and if you look at the, just to the, on the north side or top of that page, as you go down, you'll see that podium structure that's just to the south of the apartments. Well, that was initially going to be just an outdoor, just kind of a rock garden. Well, we determined that it made the most sense to turn that into the entire amenity area. So our pool, bar and grill, spa, all those things are going to be in that area now. We think that does a lot of things for the development. We think that makes all the inner units now, instead of looking at a surface parking lot, now they actually have the opportunity to look at a pool deck, amenity area, et cetera, which we think is more desirable for the development. And you know, sometimes things happen like this. You go, why didn't we do this in the first place? Well, sometimes you're forced to pivot and make decisions that long-term that you think are probably advantageous and frankly do a better job of making this project a Class A+ project. And so that will end up being the amenity deck. Just to the north of that, those were units. Those will now be your theater, your clubhouse, your open area, so that area will continue to look on to that amenity deck, and would be a nice benefit for all of our residents that live here. So that's the biggest item. That's the biggest shift that we had to make. Again, that enabled us to then take the structure and have the entire building be a wood structure or stick structure, as opposed to utilizing that steel and the metal studs to elevate that pool on the top deck. It also does take the pool and put it a little further away from the residents, which we think is a benefit, but at the same time, creates an amenity that all of our residents will now be able to look over, as opposed to the pool on top where, you know, you've got to be up there to enjoy it.
Just quickly, before you go any further, will we have something besides a schematic to look at? It's really hard to envision north here and south here and without a picture of what it
absolutely.
looks like.
If you can go one more slide, let's see here. That just gives you an idea of where the pool will be located. That's the before. And if you go back one more, you can go back to that last one, but we absolutely will. And again, this was a pivot that was made probably about 35 to 40 days ago. And so all the structural, et cetera, are currently taking place. And so without a doubt, there's going to be renderings, et cetera, that'll show that. Yep, there you go right there. But that gives you an idea of just showing it where, and why is it all the way to the east? Well, we want the sun to hit that pool as long as possible. So again, that's kind of a quick summary of our navigating very volatile waters from a construction perspective over the last year. I've always been very, very sensitive, especially in working through this project with other variables, et cetera. And so I can assure you that we don't want to make this request, but we're in a position where the increase in construction pricing has been difficult. We've had to navigate it, and that has taken time. You know, it also takes a little bit of time as we continue to finalize our agreements with the cell tower that's on the site. There's a lot of easements in place that are costing us to navigate a little bit. And fortunately, we're close on Johnson County wastewater as well. But this is overall, it's a little bit more of a complicated site than anticipated, but all things that we're working through, and again, very excited to get this project going. We know it was important for demo to take place, that bowling alley. We knew that was a priority. And so that was something that we knew that we wanted to get done sooner rather than later, as we didn't want the neighborhood or the neighbors to have to look at that bowling alley longer. We knew that was important. So
Thanks, Banks.
thank you, guys.
A quick question for you, Banks.
Yep.
Thanks for your transparency. Thanks for being here. Good
Not
to
a
hear
problem.
from you again. Just was curious on the demolition of the old structure, if you could speak or if you knew of how much of that material was able to be reused for.
So we were actually able, it was 14, 20. Robert, do you know how many, Robert, are you on? I think we were.
Jason's here.
16 of that, I can't remember the final lane count. That was we were able to salvage every lane but 2. So, which was great because we've got it all actually in the site box container just to the east of the site. So we're going to utilize all those lanes throughout the project. Obviously, some of the gutters, some of that stuff that we're going to turn into kind of cool seats and seating. We're also able to utilize. Outside of that, there wasn't a whole lot in that darn bowling alley that we could salvage. We wanted to, but I was happy we got almost all the lanes. That was to me a big win.
Thank you.
Ben?
I know you probably don't have a render from the rear. What does the modified building look like in terms of like glazing and exposure to the neighborhood on the back there?
Yeah, Connor, he's asking about the glazing and structure on the back there as the neighborhood would look at it. Could we, I don't know if you have anything right now, but that's something that we'd want to get and share sooner rather than later. Connor, our architect's on the phone as well. But we'll be able to get that and share that with council and staff. Absolutely.
Okay, yeah, and I'll say just, from living in that neighborhood, I think that moving the pool does make a pretty big impact on us in the positive direction in terms of concerns that I've heard from neighbors and folks that live around there. So.
Again, it's one of those things that you kind of hindsight's 2020. Maybe you wish that you would have done that in the first place, but here we are.
Thank you. Ken, go ahead.
Can we get copies of both the slides for tonight as well as the earlier presentation as well?
We got both of those this afternoon, and then our servers went down.
Okay.
And so we will certainly upload those to the packet in the morning.
And we'll get some updated slides as well, looking from the neighborhood to the north into the level.
The mayor has a question for you.
Yes, thank you, Banks. I know you've spoken a lot to the pricing volatility. Could you speak to if you've got everything locked up on pricing now? Or firm prices or, yeah.
We feel confident we do, but I felt confident 3 months ago, right? And with every day it comes, the difficulty of locking in subs, but we do feel confident based on this design. And I know our GC, Robert Green's on the phone as well. So I'll let him elaborate in further detail, but we do feel confident with where we're at the current pricing. We do.
Go ahead, Kristen.
So by moving that pool and eliminating the steel construction, were you able to go ahead and recover some of that $5 million cost increase?
No, it would have been closer to $6.5 to $7 million increase.
Okay.
So that, yes, we were able to save about $1 million, $1.5 million doing that, but this has reflected this number with that savings.
Okay, all right, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it.
Not a problem.
Is the increase in pricing and materials, et cetera, going to impact the market rate of the range of apartment costs?
No, I mean, we can't budget or put in our pro formas what's not achievable, right? And so the numbers that we have shown are the numbers that we have to stick. Our lender is not going to believe us if we just increase the rents, right? And so the numbers are going to stay. The affordability percentages are going to stay. Those numbers are all going to stay the same.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I had one related follow-up since you're referencing your lender. Has all the financing been locked in and secured?
Yeah, I mean, we do have to get an updated appraisal, which is happening right now, just because it's 6 months old and we did add a few units. But our lender has been fantastic. It's a lender we've worked with on 2 other projects. And we're very, very confident that they'll stick with us and proceed to closing and get this project going.
Excellent. Ken, did you want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll just go ahead and recommend that we take this to council non-consent.
Thanks so much for your update. We appreciate
Not
it.
a problem. Thank you all. Be safe driving home.
Okay, the next part of our agenda includes discussion items, and we don't have any tonight, so we'll go right into department updates. Laura, do you have any updates for finance and administration?
And the only update that I would have is just a reminder that on Saturday, we have our city council retreat here at the Powell Community Center. It's going to be an unfacilitated retreat at this point, and we've shortened up the time frame. I think I communicated that earlier in the week, just out of recognition and concern for where we are with respect to COVID and not wanting to serve a meal and have us all, have to make a decision about taking up a mask to eat in a room together. So we have a lot of ground to cover. It will be the first of, I think, a series of meetings that the mayor and I have been discussing that we're hoping to calendar between now and when we start the budget process. So just a reminder about that. And I had hoped that the packet would be ready to go out today, and today got a little busy preparing for this evening. So you can expect your retreat agenda packet. There's not a lot of homework per se. I know we're going to provide you with kind of a year-end report similar to the project status report that you've seen in the past. Share some information that I know the mayor has collected in terms of priorities and goals and objectives through her one-on-one meetings with each of the council members, and then really talk about getting some big projects and issues on our schedules and what the path forward for several of those will be. So we'll look forward to seeing you all at 8:30 here on Saturday morning. We said 12, I'll let the mayor answer that question.
The goal is 12:30, but please block your calendar till 1.
Before we move to conclusion, I just want to send a thank you to the staff for phenomenal work between Public Works, Police, Admin, and Parks and Rec. We have got the best staff ever. They're responsive, they're transparent. We're just very fortunate, and I thank you all for everything you do to support this council as well as the community. Thanks. It is now 7:55, and with no further discussion, that concludes the meeting of the Finance and Administration Committee. Again, this video will be made public on our website at mission.org, missionks.org, excuse me. Thank you, and have a nice evening. Be safe.